Good afternoon to all of our merry Marvelites at a special time here. I am Christian Blatt, and yes, we are talking Marvel here in the middle of the afternoon with a special guest, Jeff Winstead, who is an accomplished comic book creator in his own right. You can find his series, The Alternate, on Comixology, and if you're lucky, like me, you actually have a printed hard copy of the first issue. Jeff, thanks for coming back on with us.
Thanks for having me, Christian. I appreciate it. Happy to be here.
Now, yeah, so now we're here at this weird time because I wanted to take the time to actually watch this New Mutants panel because my thinking was this New Mutants Comic Con at Home panel, which we just had, and what everybody would be wanting to talk about. There was going to be so much news. I was like, all right, let's not do the show before. Let's do the show after it. There's going to be so much to talk about. And there's a little bit to talk about.
Yeah. Oh, sure.
But what there's not to talk about is any of the stuff we thought it might be, a video on demand release, a Disney Plus release, which I still say is not happening no matter how many times people want to say. Now, Jeff, you actually took the 30 minutes to watch at least some of the panel, right?
I did. Yeah. I watched the whole thing. I did fast forward real quickly and I bounced back to where I was. But yeah, fast forward just to see if there was any dates, and there weren't at the end. So.
Yeah, we've got a few people in the chat, and when we do the show this way, we can bring the comments up. Daniel Drew's got a yo, Daniel. And Rock says, hi, everybody. Thank you, Rock, for being here. And Charles Lee will not be able to watch the show. He's got a night, but Charles, if you're watching this after the fact, then you see that I gave you a shout out. And Jack brings up the point that I was about to bring up. He thinks we get a release similar to Bill and Ted. That'd be most ideal at this point. Whatever screens can show it and on demand all at once. Let's just see it already. That's kind of the big takeaway. We'll talk about what was in the panel, but what wasn't in the panel was anything new about the release date. And they had fun with it. There was this altered version of the trailer where it listed all of the release dates we had and they crossed it out.
Yeah.
And then they had the August 28th release date and then all these little pop-up, fingers crossed, let's hope so, that sort of a thing. And look, I thought that was funny. Like, that's all you can do at this point. When you've been delayed this many times, Jeff, you have to have fun with it, right?
And I thought for sure, following all the pop-ups and I think the next thing they popped up was "We Hope." So they're still ringing and praying the August 28th, which seems to be pretty much a stretch. But we'll see.
Yeah. So the big news that we had earlier today that is not related directly to New Mutants, but the timing made me think that it was going to be the same thing, is that Bill and Ted 3, Bill and Ted Face the Music, was getting another altered release date. It said September 1st. But it now says, and I got press releases that reflect this, it says September 1st on demand and in theaters, or in theaters and on demand. So places in the country where movie theaters are open or drive-ins, they'll show it. But for the most part, you're going to be able to do it. And that's honestly what I thought that they were going to do with New Mutants.
Yeah,
it was like, do you want to see it on a screen? Can you see it on a screen where you live? Great. We're going to do that. Everybody else, we're going to get $20 out of you. You're going to have to rent it video on demand, which, look, it's a model that's worked over these last few months. Anybody with kids has gotten that Trolls movie. I got King of Staten Island, the Judd Apatow movie. I rented it for $20. I mean, what else am I going to do when I can't go out of the house, Jeff?
Right. And for someone like me who doesn't like to leave the house anyway, it's a perfect option. This is something I've been dreaming for, that they would have these movies come out. You can just rent them. $20 is fine, because for me and my wife, it's about what it costs to go to the movies. Actually, it's cheaper than going to
if you're going with two people, it's cheaper. And yeah, Jeff, if movie theaters never reopened, it wouldn't impact your life at all. It would actually make your life better because you wouldn't have to wait for these movies. They would just magically show up on your television.
Right. We relieve some pressure. So yeah,
because I kind of bullied you into seeing Endgame with me. It was the fourth time.
Although we did see it in good style in a theater with recliners, and that was nice.
Yeah, no. I did like that theater. Yeah,
so the Bill and Ted thing. Have they referenced at all what? So is it going to be a $20 rental?
They didn't give a price point, but that's
Okay.
usually what it is right now. So
Yeah.
that's just my assumption. But I think as it gets closer, they'll figure it out. So officially, New Mutants is still on the books for August 28th. Yeah, Daniel points out the other thing. We got 2 minutes of the actual movie and a little bit of new footage. Alrighty then. That is really the case, in all honesty. And by the way, Daniel's watching our show while he's in the final Marvel Netflix props auction. If you get any good Netflix Marvel props, let us know. I'd like some Daredevil Billy clubs.
Oh yeah, jeez, yeah. Shot up Nick Cage,
but
Luke Cage, hoodie,
Nick Cage, yeah. So let's talk a little bit about what the panel was. The panel had director Josh Boone, and it had Maisie Williams, who people know a lot from Game of Thrones, obviously. And let's see who else was there. We had Anya Taylor-Joy, that's Ileana. We had Charlie Heaton, who is Jeff's favorite, Cannonball. That's people know him from Stranger Things. Blue Hunt is Daniel Moonstar, aka Mirage, and Henry Zaga is Sunspot, and I don't think and Alice Braga, I assume that is Dr. Reyes. So they were all there and they had fun in this. The smart thing they did, and I was talking with our friend Colt Bedeau, who manages our Twitter. I was talking to him about that. I think it was really smart that it was pre-produced. They pre-recorded it because you have all kinds of technical problems with, any of this kind of video conferencing, no matter which software you're using, there's always a problem. I had something I recorded earlier today that we were all on it and we all clicked off our cameras and that's how we got it to work. So we just did audio. So you run into that sort of thing. And, they didn't have to deal with that, but they're also able to pick up the pacing. They're able to edit it in some clips. So I think that was smart. I don't know why I just thought it was going to be live, where maybe they would take questions. But from a production standpoint, Michael B is just checking in with us he just wants the quick answer. And Michael B, that's why we're here. For people that don't want to watch the 30-minute panel, Michael B, I'm going to tell you that no, they are not going to release New Mutants on Disney Plus in August. I don't think they're going to announce it at all, but here's what they didn't do. They didn't tell us. They didn't tell us what they're doing. They referenced that it's going to come out at some point, but they're not really sure when it's going to come out, So that's, that was definitely frustrating because even if it was like, yeah, it's going to come out in October in theaters and or on demand. I think that the Disney Plus option, as we've talked a lot about on Marvel Movie News, there was a little bit of a lag issue, so that's why I stopped talking. But there's a lot of issues with getting the cast contracts all worked out if they do an on-demand release. So maybe it just needs to come out on some screens. So, but the short answer is we don't know specifically. But if it was going to get rolled out on Disney Plus, they definitely would have told you today.
Oh yeah,
this was the time to tell us when it was going to come out in some form like that. Maybe it would be like, and when you wake up tomorrow morning, it'll be on Disney Plus or on Hulu or on demand. So I think they're still trying to figure out what they're going to do. Which I don't know, Jeff, you heard that they were doing this whole thing, doing a big panel at this Comic-Con at home. Clearly, logically, you would only do this if you had some actual news, right?
Yeah, I had no, I couldn't see at all why they would bother otherwise. And I guess they obviously really don't know. And I did notice the host at the end of the panel, you'd hear him say kind of under his breath, we don't know. It won't be anytime soon. So it's almost like they have August 28th up as a date, but they don't know for sure they're going to hit that unless they maybe do this thing where they are going to do the Bill and Ted 3 scenario where they release it in some screens. And that also makes sense for award seasons too. So if you put it right to streaming, that knocks you out. Does that still knock you out of getting technical awards and all that kind of stuff?
The regulations and requirements that are going to be different because of how long movie theaters have been closed.
Yeah.
I think that they're going to make some allowances that honestly, I think that those allowances are going to become permanent once they've opened the floodgates.
Yeah, I think I have.
Here's Cam Egan to rain on my parade. I don't think you're going to see New Mutants this year, but possibly late next year. I look, I don't know. There are much bigger movies to worry about, and you have movies that are going to come out internationally. Ironically, movie theaters in China are open now. So they just need new movies. And there are movies from the January and February where, you know, they get to see like The Invisible Man and maybe Onward. But internationally, you'll be able to release the new James Bond movie. You'll be able to release Wonder Woman 1984, theoretically. And is special interest to this show, Black Widow.
Yeah.
But there's a part of me that thinks, maybe none of those movies are actually going to come out. Because the movies I just mentioned are not the kind that you're going to release digitally in any way. Bill and Ted 3 wasn't going to make a ton of money. It would have probably been nice for everybody involved, but they just made it for fun. I heard an interview with Alex Winter where he talked about, like, nobody really did it for any real money. If the movie's successful, they'll make money. They have profit participation. So that movie, it makes sense, but I don't think for these other ones. So is the thinking that all these movies, they'll sit on it until 2021, 2022, whenever they feel like there's a business model where movie theaters are going to be able to be open again. That's what they're going to do. So I was disappointed in that respect. There's an interesting way that some people will be able to see this movie. They're doing screenings that you can win. And Josh Boone, the director, even said, wear a mask.
Yeah.
And I'm like, if you're telling people to wear a mask, should they? And look, I don't know if I would have gone but I definitely tried to win my way into a screening. And then they told me no, that I didn't win. And I even used another Twitter account and tried to see if I could win to a screening in San Diego. I also didn't win.
I saw that. So, sneaky. That was
yeah, I was trying to buck the system. Yeah. But Jeff, you don't go into a movie theater in the best of circumstances. If I told you, hey, I won tickets to this screening to see New Mutants, do you want to come with me? What would you say?
Yeah, I might go. I mean, I guess it depends on who else was there. What would be the distancing situation? Like if it's literally just me and you in a theater, you on one side, me on the other, I think I could go for that. But for some reason, I do suspect it would be more fans than just the two of us.
Yeah, I honestly think the screenings are going to be outdoor events. I mean, there's still it depends on what state you're in. We're Jeff and I are both in California. There's in your county, what county is
Riverside?
Is Riverside. So you're in Riverside County, yeah. So it's the regulations are a little different from county to county, but in general, there's a certain look. You're in the county where Coachella is supposed to happen, so it's not. They've already canceled it. So it's there is definitely some concern about that. If they do it outside where it's really spread out, look, there have been drive-in concerts. There are plenty of drive-in theaters out here. I've been to one. I've talked about it. My plan was always to see this when the August 28th date came out. I'm like, great, that's a night out at the drive-in for me. But Michael B stuck around to ask, we really think they're going to try to release New Mutants at drive-ins. This film has been done for 2 years, accept the loss and just release it video on demand. And look, if it's released for drive-ins and there are small non-chain theaters open nationwide, I don't think it would be released in theaters to make a ton of money off of it. It's just more of like, let's put something out. And Disney has I've used this term before, Disney's had this New Mutants movie as kind of the canary in the coal mine for their bigger movies like Mulan and Black Widow. I'm like, well, people are going to come out and see this movie at all. Okay, let's save Mulan. Right now, Mulan is supposed to come out. Actually, I think it's August 21st.
Right.
There's been some reshuffling. Since we did our last show, Tenet, the Christopher Nolan movie, is been postponed indefinitely. So, drive-ins are an option. There are some theaters in places. A friend of my podcast, The Blackcast, a guy named Dominica Saxon, who lives in Idaho, he said movie theaters are open there, at least for now. So there are options, but from a business standpoint, what do you think, Jeff? Is it worth let's see how much we can get per screen, but the focus should really be on video on demand.
Yeah, this movie has been fascinating even before the Disney purchase of Sony, or Fox, I mean. So I thought for sure, I was in the camp that they were going to bury the movie. It doesn't fit in with current Marvel movie continuity. So I'm shocked that we're still even playing this game. I would have thought for sure they would have released it, maybe not on Disney Plus, but as a digital rental, just to see how it worked out. Much like they did with Bloodshot, the Valiant movie with Vin Diesel back in April.
Oh yeah,
because it seems to be
that actually that got released. I know that they were showing that at that drive-in when I went. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I think that was a similar thing where you could rent it pretty quickly, right when it came out in April, which was probably a good play. Like, it seems like to me that for this movie, for my understanding of what the budget was originally, I'm not entirely sure about whatever reshoots they may have done, added cost, unless there's something in it where they're going to tie it into the MCU continuity. I don't know why they don't just drop it, now. Just put it out.
Yeah, and they would have had to film something new, and they specifically didn't do reshoots. They were going to do reshoots, and then they were just like, you know what, we're just going to put out the movie that Josh Boone turned in, and we'll let it sink or swim like that. Daniel Drew points out, they didn't. They were going to.
Okay. I was under the impression that back in like a year and a half ago they had done some reshoots.
They were going to.
Okay.
And then they didn't. And then at some point they just threw their hands up and were like, let's see how it goes.
Okay.
Daniel Drew points out that Mulan has been delayed indefinitely. That's a good point.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. The future 3 Star Wars movies were all moved back a year. The Avatar sequels also got pushed a year. They can keep pushing those Avatar sequels as far as I'm concerned, but I do appreciate the update.
Yeah, the information's nice, but
yeah. The Daniel also was writing to us about the sweepstakes, and he says it was weird because they had a try again button for the posters and the screenings, and he was like, sure, because I tried again too. I tried like 10 times, let's be honest. So that was what I did there. And Kemme Egan apologizes for raining on our parade. It's all right. I just want to see this movie. And when I woke up today, I was really honestly thinking maybe I'll get to see it by this weekend, and that's just crazy talk. But that was definitely what I was thinking.
I actually went to Disney Plus and just typed it in the search field just in case there was like a pending, hold screen for it, but there was not.
So you're saying we had a little connection issue. You went to Disney Plus and it wasn't listed there. So,
I went to Disney Plus this morning, just typed it in just for fun, just in case, something popped up behind the scenes, coming soon. But no, there was no listing for it at all. So
somebody cut together a fake trailer that made the rounds on the internet where they like filmed it off their TV. So it was like, it was okay that it looked bad, and it was the New Mutants trailer, and it said Disney Plus September 4th, and pretty much everybody who saw that was like, no, that's fake.
Yeah.
But I saw it, everybody saw it, we all talked about it a little bit. So it was interesting to kind of see this panel, because one of the things we did get was we got the first, I don't know, maybe 3 minutes of the movie, and it was interesting to see. It's obviously going to be told from Mirage, Daniel Moonstar's standpoint, played by Blue Hunt. And I don't know. I mean, it looks interesting. And as Colt Badeau was messaging me when we were talking about it after the fact, it's not like they skimped on the effects. I mean, there's a pretty big explosion in there. So I would say that, if anything, maybe Danielle's father could have, I don't know, taken some acting lessons. But
yeah,
I am complaining already.
Yeah, we're on the same page with that.
Yeah.
I was, on the one hand, impressed with the special effects because I knew the movie has a lower budget for a superhero flick. But the acting, not the lead character, but the acting of the father looked a little, had an indie whiff to it, to say, but to be kind. So,
it was almost like they only had one take with this guy. But so now all I need to do is see the other, what is it, 1 hour and I forget what the running time was. I think it was an hour 48.
It's tight.
I need like an hour 45. That's all I need now. I just need the rest of it. But it's the cast seemed to have fun talking about it. You got a little bit of the insight. Many times Josh Boone referenced a digital release and a Blu-ray release. So I actually thought that was going to be the announcement at the end.
Right.
For old guys like me that like their physical media, I just wanted a Blu-ray, and that's one way to do it, I guess. But yeah, to do a digital release and a Blu-ray and just great, see what we can make. I really thought that that's what was coming, but that doesn't seem to be the case. Did when he mentioned that a couple of times, did you have the same thought, Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely. I thought for sure that's where we were going. He mentioned, I think at one point they mentioned they were about to, when they brought Bill Sienkiewicz on, he mentioned that they were scheduled to film some Blu-ray material back before the COVID shutdown. So that was way back. So that was pretty interesting.
Yeah. Did you cringe like I did when the moderator, seems like a nice guy, Ira Madison III, said Bill Sienkiewicz?
I did. But, I'm sure that he gets it all the time. And I actually figured Josh Boone probably knew that was wrong too and just let it slide. So
yeah, but it was pre-recorded, so you easily could have fixed it if you cared.
I know. I didn't notice they made a point not to bring Claremont on, but I guess they figured it might be harder to get him off off screen.
Yeah, I mean, look, I love Chris Claremont. I love getting the chance to interview him. I interviewed him less than a month ago. But to have him pop on for a few minutes might have been difficult. But Bill had been there on the set, and oddly enough, Chris did a convention over the weekend. He was in Huntsville, Alabama, and he's doing it. Yeah, he's doing a signing in Florida right now. So good for him that he's going out. And good for the people of Huntsville. People can react to that sort of news any way they want to. I was just jealous. I was like, man, I'd like to be at a con, not a huge sprawling con that would make me nervous. But, like a spacious airplane hangar with some tables with some old comics. Come on, that's all I need.
Okay, so I have done a con in an airplane hangar. So the one out here 2 years ago wasn't at the Air Museum.
Oh, cool.
That's pretty neat, actually. But that's totally the way to do it. You can space out. Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, everybody waited. Claremont took a picture of people in line. They all had masks on.
Yeah.
I think that's great. But I find that to be, it's great when people can go and be happy. And obviously when you always have to quantify everything, you hope everybody's healthy and, nothing bad happened. But, you can feel pretty good about that. It was fun to see, but I was definitely surprised. I even texted you. I'm like, I just saw on Claremont's Instagram, he's at a convention. And if I had known that, I would have asked him about it, and then who knows how many minutes we would have spent on that. Michael B still in the chat. Thanks for sticking around. Given the way things are now, they might not get a handle on the virus till next year, maybe longer. It would be nice for one studio to take a chance and see how VOD will work in our new reality. I think movies of this size are the ones to try it with. The huge, studio defining, budget breaking movies, those, they just have to wait. There's some middle ground. I don't know where it is. A Bill and Ted size movie, definitely New Mutants, because what does Disney care about all the money that Fox spent on it?
Yeah, exactly.
They're like, yeah, whatever, Right. So, I don't know. I mean, I think that's what makes sense, but I mean, I agree sort of in spirit with what Michael's saying. I just don't think it's going to happen. I think it would be great. Look, if I could watch the new James Bond movie on my phone, if Quibi carved it up into 10-minute chapters, that'd be great. It'd be kind of annoying, but I would still do it.
Yeah.
It was cool to see Bill Sienkiewicz. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was just going to say, I think Black Widow is going to be our lead indicator because that's the earliest huge movie that was delayed. So it was an early May release, So supposed to be.
Yeah.
So I think once we see that, once the decision is made on that will tell us either when movies go back in theaters or when everything just screws all in one video.
Wonder Woman 84 is scheduled to be in theaters in October, and Cam A. is asking about a spoiler. I actually don't know the spoiler about Wonder Woman, and even though this is a Marvel show, if I was aware of it, I'd bring it up. We could talk about it. I actually just don't know what it is, so maybe it won't be spoiled to me now. So, and because he references it, I won't put it up on screen. But I'm kind of intrigued now. But Daniel actually checks in from the Marvel auction. All the various Billy Clubs, Mats, and Bullseyes from season 3 went from between 1,100 to 3,100. Okay, so I guess I don't want those.
Yeah. I mean, if he wants to buy a couple for us, and I'll pay for shipping.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good deal.
Yeah, I figure,
pay for the shipping. Anyway, I was going to say it was cool to see Bill Sienkiewicz in the panel. See, even I said his name wrong. And it was cool to see him, and he did a cool poster. That was one of the things they did. They rolled out these really cool posters, which you can find them. You know what? I'll get our pal Colt to tweet those out from at Marvel News PTN, and everybody can see those. There's some cool ones. There's one that looks like a Nightmare on Elm Street poster, and there's one that Charlie, who plays Cannonball, Charlie Heaton, he referenced that it looks like I Know What You Did Last Summer 2 years ago, because that's how long ago they made it.
Right.
So that was kind of funny. So there were some cool posters, but yeah, the Bill Sienkiewicz poster I thought was really cool. Yeah. I would, if I had won that from the Twitter sweepstakes, I would have been excited.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It was interesting too to see the actors, especially in the footage. Some of them have aged. Like most of them probably look the same, but since they're young actors, particularly the guy who plays Sunspot, looked a lot different now than he did back when they filmed it.
So, yeah. Jack actually brought this up. Mirage, played by Blue Hunt, looks like she aged the most of the whole cast. And Boone is still holding out hope to make his whole trilogy. If he is, he didn't say that in this. I think realistically, he knows that that's not about to happen. But and she looked so different. She had that like the crazy blonde curly hair. So, and maybe that's her regular hair. But I think she was. Let's see. She was from the originals. Let me make sure I have all of their. Let's see. So Anna Taylor-Joy, who is Ileana, she was in Glass.
Right.
And Blue Hunt was in the originals. Henry Zaga was in 13 Reasons Why. So that's a little bit about some of their back stories. But yeah, they're all young. I mean, Maisie Williams, God, she was a child when Game of Thrones started, and she still sort of has that face. But yeah, I mean, she looks different than she does in that footage.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it's something that you run into, So it's it was fun to see them talk about it and get a little bit of insight behind the scenes. And the other big rollout was the hashtags, which, man, when they roll out the emojis from the hashtags, like if you do hashtag New Mutants Wolfsbane, you get a little Wolfsbane emoji. And I know Colt did tweet those out a little bit earlier from at Marvel News PTN. So, at Magic, although I spelled Magic wrong, I spelled it with, I know she spells it with a K, but I did MAGICK. It's just MAGIK. And at New Mutants Mirage, at New Mutants Cannonball, aka Jeff Winstead's favorites. Right. So you can see all of those, but I'm like, oh, if they did emojis, clearly this movie's coming out. What a sucker I was.
They were setting you up for something. Yeah. And for those who haven't figured out, the reason Cannonball is my favorite, if you can't tell from the accent, I'm from Kentucky. So that's
right. And he and his sister Husker also both from Kentucky.
Yeah, and another sibling that at one point they also made a mutant that I think they may have retconned now, which is probably a good idea. You don't want the whole family to be mutants. So
did they retcon Husk out of existence, or is she still around?
I haven't seen her forever. I think that her history as a mutant probably still is canon, but at some point,
no, that book Generation X was the hands down the favorite of Michael Shirley, who we have on this show sometimes, and I used to do Marvel TV Weekly with. He loves Generation X. He has a lot of merch from that. But let's see. Hey, Cam Egan, a little bit off topic. What is the most you've paid for any piece of memorabilia from a Marvel movie, if any? Not from a Marvel movie, but just last episode, I talked about spending $90 on Amazing Spider-Man number 238, the first appearance of Hobgoblin, which if I was in my bunker, I could hold up right now, but it's downstairs. And it's a sound investment. I still stand by that $90.
Well,
Jeff, asking price was $100, but a mint, not even like a 9, but like a high, very fine is a few $100, you know? So I still feel good about it.
Oh yeah, I would too. I looked it up the second you showed it to me. I looked it up to see what the value was. It's priceless. Priceless. I mean, it's a Hobgoblin.
Yeah, well, and I've literally wanted that book for so long, you know.
Yeah.
And the fact of the matter is that I was able to get it. He's barely in it. I showed he's like in the last page.
Yeah, yeah.
But I also have 239, which he's on the cover and he's in the whole issue. So, but anyway, so that's the most that I spent on there. There's some tweets. People are tweeting about how the panel didn't really mention. Some of these have been shared with me while we've been on. The panel just didn't mention whether or not it's still really coming out August 28th. And it's almost like they edited out any mentions of when it's coming out because they're like, we don't know.
Yeah.
But they're trying to have you win your way into to a screening somewhere, which, gosh, you hope is safe. But I really like these characters. You know, here's the thing. I've really liked the New Mutants characters. When I was first reading comics, my favorite comic was Power Pack because I was a kid and they were kids. That's all I needed. Loved Spider-Man, loved the X-Men, but that was so I also really liked the New Mutants. And man, and we've talked about this before, Jeff. When I was a kid, Bill Sienkiewicz's art, I was like, what is this? Why does it look so weird? But it's his art looks so much better whether you're looking at like a scan of it digitally or if it's on better paper. It just didn't look great on the newsprint of comics from the 80s. At least it wasn't able to breathe. And the covers always looked cool.
Yeah.
But the actual interiors, I think, suffered from that process where they made the sort of cheap looking colors and everything.
Right. Because he was doing more mixed media on the covers because you could get away with that because the printing process was better. And the interiors, I think New Mutants may have been one of those titles where they were trying. There was a sort of bleeding edge printing technique they were trying at some of the publishers at one point. Web of Spider-Man, if you look at the first, maybe issue 6, has this, all the colors are really gaudy. They're really bright and like in a non-attractive way. I think New Mutants may have been like that too, the early issues, so it doesn't look good. But my first New Mutants was one of his, I think it may have been 18. And it was a Legion issue. And I was so confused. To just plop down in the middle of a Legion story with his art, with the story being what it was anyway. But it was wild. I mean, it's definitely wild stuff. I think Claremont, and just mentioned to you, felt unleashed once Bill was part of the book.
Yeah, and honestly, Bill's style really lends itself to Legion, like the character, and it's just all so weird and mind bendy and all of that and then also his crazy stand up hair. So it's to me that's what defines Bill Sienkiewicz's art, and it was cool to see him. I'm glad he was there. I did wonder if Claremont was going to be there, but it kind of makes sense. Before we wind things down on what's a sort of, we're on at a weird time, we'll do a little bit of a shorter show, but the plan is for the Kamala Khan character, Ms. Marvel. She's going to be introduced in another Marvel Studios project. This is according to a site called The Direct. So sometimes you take this news with food for thought, but I think it makes sense that you might have some of the Disney Plus characters populate other Disney Plus shows. What are your thoughts about using this iteration of Ms. Marvel? Obviously, Carol Danvers is Captain Marvel now, and Kamala Khan is the current iteration of Ms. Marvel. So what are your thoughts on that, Jeff?
Feige's mentioned this, like he's really intent on getting some of these newer characters that's not really from when you and I, like the heyday of our reading, but that were introduced in the last 10 years or so. He's really interested in introducing them quickly, I think, into the universe. So I wouldn't be shocked at all if that's what happens. Like rather than rolling out just an original show with that character, plopping her into something else. Plus, it's a good way. You're already familiar with, let's say, Falcon and Winter Soldier. If you want to throw her into an episode, for instance, that would be an easy way to introduce new blood.
Yeah, and with that's sort of the only other news is that Falcon and Winter Soldier was supposed to be released in August. We knew that they didn't finish it, so it's not a surprise. It officially came off the schedule. They're saying WandaVision will not premiere until 2021. But I mean, we talked about it on the show. The Czech government has made an allowance to let some Americans film on, in Prague, because it's Disney and there's Disney money involved. So you look the other way. So they'll finish it, but who knows when it'll actually be on. But I don't know. I'm intrigued by all those shows. It'll be interesting to see what that is and what that does with the story of Captain America. But does one of the shows, so we've got Loki, we've got WandaVision, we've got Falcon and Winter Soldier. There'll eventually be the Hawkeye show, which they are still writing. And then there's sort of the second tier of characters that include She-Hulk and Ms. Marvel. Is what of those is the most exciting to you?
For sure, Falcon Winter Soldier. That would be the one that seems the most. We've seen those characters fleshed out the most in the movies. And so it'd just be really interesting to watch them make a transition to television in a sense, with even though it's streaming. So yeah, that one for sure. It's real disappointing that it's not getting released when they said it was going to. And it's a big blow for Disney Plus.
Yeah,
I'm surprised they rolled out the service without having one of those shows in the can, because it's been a long gap between Mandalorian and the next show.
Yeah, unfortunately, they had the second season of Mandalorian done, but I mean, you're right. They should have done any one of the actual scripted Marvel shows, just to have it, because this would be the time. And then now I feel like a sucker for prepaying for Disney Plus for 3 years. I essentially got a free year, but now my free year is going to be the quarantine year where they didn't have anything new.
Oh yeah.
So. Just a couple more thoughts before we wind it down to get back to Daniel. They had the healing tube. They had Luke Cage in when he got messed up, went for $50. $50 for a tube? Well, I guess the shipping's probably $1,000. And then he forgot about the news about Kamala Khan. I'd be happy for her to show up soon in one of the shows. And WandaVision would make sense. Sam and Bucky could meet her. But, here's the thing. WandaVision opens it up for literally anything can happen. Anyone can show up. So that'll be good. And Cami Egan is looking forward to She-Hulk because she's a new character being introduced into the MCU. Yeah, look, I like the She-Hulk character. And I've talked on this show about how much I like the John Byrne run in the 80s of She-Hulk, the tongue-in-cheek comedic approach to She-Hulk. I like that sort of take on the character a lot. And I hope we get something that's even close to that, Yeah.
She was great in both Fantastic Four with John Byrne and in Avengers later.
With,
the Roger Stern era.
Yeah, and as I've talked about, when I started reading comics, she was in the Fantastic Four. The Thing stayed behind on Battleworld for Secret Wars. So I love Ben Grimm. I love the Thing, but that's the Fantastic Four I fell in love with, was the one with She-Hulk. And then she jumped right back over to Avengers after that. So I like the character, and I hope that they do her justice. Yeah. I also hope that this New Mutants movie gets done some kind of justice. And I let myself get overly excited. I really thought we were going to have some news. So I rearranged the show. Nobody else could do it. I dragged Jeff into it, which I appreciate him taking the time. And we didn't have any real news other than that you can enter the contest and try and see a screening of it.
Everybody else was fished in too. I don't think you were the only one.
Yeah, that's true. Well, Jeff, I mentioned it in the intro, but you have a great comic book series called The Alternate. People can find it on Comixology, and they can follow you, as they can see on screen, at Jeff Winstead. Anything else you would actually, Michael has a great point. Ask for a refund. Yeah, you know what? You're right. Yeah. I want a refund of my Comic-Con at home admission pass. Let's see. So many awesome Marvel Studios projects in 2021. I'd assume it all shifts to 2022 at least. Absolutely. And the Fantastic Four being teased in She-Hulk, I don't think so. I don't think people really think of them together in that way. I mean, you have to have been reading in a very specific era to think of She-Hulk as a member of Fantastic Four. The Fantastic Four is, of course, with old Blue Eyes Ben Grimm. Anyway, Jeff, I crammed in a couple more comments, but I got your plug in, and it's are there any deals on Comixology, or did we blow through any of the deals?
No, we're still in it right now on Comixology. You get all 6 issues that exist so far for $1 a piece, and if you don't have Comixology, you can get them on Kindle. So go right to Amazon, just type in The Alternative, type in my name, and they'll pop right up. So also,
they're not a sponsor, but may I recommend Comixology Unlimited, because you get access to so much stuff. And it's one thing to get Marvel Unlimited, it's one thing to get DC Universe, but if you do Comixology, you get some from both, and then a lot of independents as well.
As a matter of fact, if you have Unlimited, you can read the first 5 issues on there with your subscription.
And by that point, you're going to be hooked, and you're going to need the 6th issue.
I'm telling you, it's right there for you, like that.
All right, Jeff. Well, thank you. And thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to Rock for telling us it was a great discussion. You can keep in touch with me at Christian DMZ. And if you enjoyed or have a lot of thoughts on last night's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., you can find the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. after show tonight at 9 p.m. Pacific. And yes, I know that's midnight Eastern. It will be archived right here on the Blackcast YouTube channel. So you'll be able to find it there. It'll be myself, Tehran, and Katie. And if Rachel has made it to Utah, she'll join us too. But if not, we will talk about it. We will welcome all of you in the chat. And thank you, Kame Egan. Good time. So you can find us tonight at 9, and we'll be back with more Marvel talk next Thursday. Until then, as the great Stan Lee would say, Excelsior!